Did you know that on April 9th, the United States House of Representatives passed H.R. 6492? Oh, you didn't? I wonder why that is. H.R. 6492 is actually the Expanding Public Lands Outdoor Recreation Experiences Act. I hate that, so let's just call it the Explore Act. I looked around YouTube and there isn't a lot on this, and it kind of makes sense. It was just passed by the House, so it still needs to go to the Senate. And if you remember your Schoolhouse Rock...
Well, now I'm stuck in committee and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be alone.
The little bit that I have seen on YouTube focuses on content creators, and the reason for that is simple. Over the last couple of years, there have been some changes to permitting policies for a lot of national park units that have been interpreted by some people as saying that YouTubers, content creators, could not film on public lands if they were monetized. I'm not 100% sure I agree with that interpretation, but regardless, this act actually does specifically address that. So the few things that I've seen have been about that sort of pro-content creator, and to me, I feel like you probably don't care about that, and that's probably not impactful to you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the rest of the bill. It is enormous. It is a sweeping piece of legislation. It has a lot of pieces to it. I'm going to break down some of the highlights. Not to get too into politics, I don't want to be a hugely political channel. However, pieces of legislation, they tend to be filled with a lot of big wishes that are not necessarily going to translate to the common person. I think we can all agree on that. But let's talk about what it does attempt to accomplish. Number one, it wants to extend the Every Kid Outdoors Act. And if you're not familiar with this act, this is a program that allows fourth graders and their families free entry into national parks across the country. It's a pretty great program. The Explore Act also wants to introduce online payments for federal lands. It wants to extend seasonal recreation opportunities interfacing with local, what they call stakeholders to facilitate seasonal recreation opportunities. It wants to promote volunteerism in the parks. It wants to establish good neighbor agreements with the federal government and local tribes and governments. It wants to issue permit relief for small-scale outfitters and guides. It wants to mandate a report on special recreation permits for underserved communities. Government loves to mandate reports, doesn't it? It wants to promote outdoor recreation for veterans and active duty military personnel. And part of that is building more accessible facilities, not just for disabled veterans, but for people with disabilities across the country. Now, supporters will tell you that this is a bipartisan achievement to improve outdoor recreation nationwide. They will point out that this is the first outdoor recreation specific bill that they say does not incur any cost to taxpayers. Their aim is to stimulate local and national economies, to streamline the permitting process, to modernize policies and facilities, to invest in infrastructure, and to develop and complete long-range trails, which for the hikers of my crew should be great news. Now, again, I don't want to get too into the politics, but I am very of the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. So, how this is going to translate into actual action, we'll see. I believe that the intentions are good, because I'm sure that they are. I hope that there is good that comes to the parks of this if it does become a law. But, we've seen a lot of well-meaning legislation kind of go nowhere. So let's just be cautiously optimistic. So now it moves to the Senate. Advocates hope, because there is strong bipartisan effort, they're hoping for swift action in the Senate, and they're optimistic that the bill will pass. Obviously, there is an election coming up, so depending on how quickly that happens, whichever presidential administration is in power at that time will have maybe different takes on whether or not they support this outdoor legislation. But that is, in a nutshell, the Explore Act. Now, this can obviously have a lot of impact in the state of California, not just through our 8 national parks, but also our national forests and our BLM land and even our national historic sites. California, the California economy is fueled largely by tourism to, in and out of national parks. So it can have a pretty significant impact in our state. So I'll continue to monitor this. I'll let you know how it's going as it goes. And hey, let's do this again sometime.